We are on lesson 7, problem set, in your new book. This is module 6. This is page 39 in that new book. This is going over line plots again, which are these little thingies that you remember kind of like this. Okay. The only difference between this one and the other line plot ones is that this time, instead of just reading the line plot, you are actually going to create the line plot based on this information right here on the chart. So it says, Mrs. Weiss's class grows beans for a science experiment. The students measured the heights of their bean plants to the nearest 1/4 inch, that's also called a 1/4 inch, and record the measurements as shown below. So here's all the kids in the class, apparently, and how tall each one of their plants was. It says, A, use the data to complete the line plot below. Now, it asks for a title right here. So the title, you just want to find something that would match what you were doing. So if the students were measuring the heights of how tall their bean plants were, you're not going to call it something ridiculous like unicorn horn lengths, because you're not measuring unicorn horns. I'm just going to call it just what they did up here, height of bean plants. Height of bean, or you could call it bean plant measurements or something. Just something so that you know that it's referring to you're measuring this height of bean plants. Okay. Now, you see down here they have this number line, but it is missing those little X's that show how many are for each of these heights or these sizes. Down here it says label, and it has this X equals. Well, if we go back and we look at what we did the other day in lesson 6, X equals what equaled 1 child for this. So for this one, X is going to equal 1, and since each of these is a plant, each X is going to equal 1 plant, not 1 child necessarily. I mean, each child has a plant, so it's kind of the same thing, but each X is going to be 1 plant. Okay, so what we're going to do is I'm going to get you started on this, and then I want you to try to finish it on your own. And then tear it out and turn it into the tray so I can see how you did, but I'll get you started. So we're just going to start here. As you see, we need to fill in how many plants were each of these sizes. So I'm going to start right here. This says 1 3/4 inches. So I'm going to go up here. I'm going to find anything that was 1 3/4. Here's one. Here's another one. 1 3/4, 1 3/4. Okay, so then I see 1, 2, 3, 4 plants that were 1 3/4. So I'm just going to, just like when we made our line plot together at the reading group table that one day, and we were measuring those little foam sticks. Each one of you, however high it was, you made an X. So there was 4. All right, now 2 inches. So then just go through, count how many are 2 inches. I'm going to use a different little thing here so I can count them easier. So 1, this is 2, 2. So I only see 1, 2 that were 2 inches. So then find your 2 inches. 1, 2. Okay, let's do one more together. 2 1/4. So find anything that's 2 1/4. I'm going to give these a check mark so I can tell them apart from the others. 1, 2, 2 1. That's 2 1/2. That's close. Don't let it trick you. 2 1/4. Here's another one. That's 2 3/4. Don't let it trick you. 2 1/4. Okay, I don't see any more that are 2 1/4. So then let's count those. 1, 2, 3. So then go to your 2 1/4. There are 1, 2, 3 plants that are that tall. So you can kind of see what I'm doing here. You just need to go through, and I want you to find these last 4 right here. Count how many are each of these sizes. Just be careful for like 2 1/2. Don't get it mixed up with like 2 3/4 because they look awfully close. And then you saw how I kind of marked them off as I went to make sure that I didn't miss any. And each height, I made like a different little shape. Like I did, these were stars, these were check marks for the 2 1/4. The 2 inches, I made little dots, just so I could kind of tell, like, okay, the ones that are 2 inches are dots. Then I just have to count my dots. So when you get here, like maybe use something else, like maybe use a smiley face, or maybe use a different color. Like if you have crayons and you want to do all the ones that are 2 1/4, I'm going to highlight one color and then count them. All the ones that are 2 3/4, I'm going to make them a different color and then count them. And then put your X's above. And then down here, we'll talk about the label right here. But if you look back at this right here, this is a label. This is the lesson 6 one. This is the label. It says height in inches. So when I go, and this one was another one that I see in your book. It says hours to show what they're measuring. The label shows what they're measuring. So this time they're doing height in inches. So I'm going to put that down here right away for my label before I have you go on. Okay, so what I want you to do is go through and put your X's on here to finish filling in your line plot right here using the chart up here. Okay, and don't worry about the back. And then I want you to, you know what? Don't turn this in. Leave this in your book, because then what I'll have you do is I'll have you go over, we'll go and do the back of it together. So I want it to stay in your book, but go in and finish filling this side in right here. Okay.